Looks like they're having a bit of a problem. It's okay. It's all going to be all right. Hmm. And there's two out of four, three, four. Okay, we're good. All right, so we are live on Facebook and YouTube. We've got a new friend that we're going to get to know today, in typical Soulology style, spontaneously, intuitively, creatively, imaginatively, and depending on what we're talking about, or doing courageously. Beloved sister by the name of Jill Prescott. So I am going to play our quick intro, 1 minute and 20 seconds, and allow people time to come in. And then we're going to come back here and bring Jill up and get to know her. See you real quick. How's it going, everybody? Todd Medina, Soulology, Soul Speaks 5D. It's just a conversation. We've got a new friend, a beloved sister by the name of Jill Prescott coming in. I want to thank everybody for your continued love and support and contributions that allow us to keep doing this every day. I don't worry about how it's going to happen anymore. It's just the more we go into this transition we call ascension, the easier it gets to handle this new lifestyle that we all have. And if these shows resonate with you, please share. We're getting hammered on these algorithms with Facebook and YouTube. So if you could share to one page or group, that'd be great. So let's get this new friend of ours, Jill Prescott, up here. Let me just get her on. I noticed on her bio on Facebook that she's done a TED Talk, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Let's see. Start video. Unmute. There you go.
Hello.
What's happening, beloved sister? How are you doing? What's going on?
I'm very well. Thanks, Todd. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My neck hurts. I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, I'm having some kind of issue. But yeah, so where are you at? Where are you at?
I am on the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia, which is about a 40-minute ferry ride from Vancouver.
Okay, so you're over there. That's a very powerful, spiritually powerful area. We know a lot of people from that area.
Yep.
I don't know what that was. Did you hear that ET digital thing come in? So you're over there in that power spot, and I don't know. I don't normally read bios. I picked up some of your information, but I don't know if you want to. I don't usually do this. We usually say, "When did you wake up?" But for some reason, I want to ask you, what's your background? I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my handle is Spiritual Badass.
Yes.
And really, for me, that's really about being willing, anybody who is willing to step into this conversation, to put themselves out there, to speak from the heart, to speak from that place of not really knowing, but somehow knowing, and continuing on the path, no matter how many times you got to do your shadow work or whatever it is, to just keep plowing forward. And, you know, my the first big shift for me happened at the end of 2012, and that's really what started me on the path. And there was a medical emergency, a complete career change, a bankruptcy.
You had the successive traumas that a lot of people had in a
Very
short period.
many.
Yeah, in a short period of time.
Yeah, and a culmination, I would say, of
Mm,
years of traumas that
yeah,
were unhandled. So
yeah.
yeah.
That's well put. Yeah, I think there was like a build up, and then at the very end it was like a sprint. And
Mhm.
it's like they just went boom, 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 boom. I know a lot of people, myself included, went through that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think, we're allowed to get away with it for so long, but if we
Mm,
chose before we got here to be on a path of service, eventually the divine spirit, God,
mm,
however you relate, is going to say, enough's enough, and now's the
mm.
time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You don't become a spiritual badass by not getting a spiritual 2x4 across the ass.
Many
You know what I mean?
times.
I always said a stubborn human is a stubborn soul. So like, that's why they picked us, because we're stubborn. And like you said earlier, what is a badass? What is a spiritual badass? It's someone who's going to continue to get up and get up and get up. They get their ass kicked over and over and over and over. Those
Yeah.
successive traumas. I mean, how many times did you just want to go, you know what? Well, I can't do it. I need some
Yep.
help. I think that's why they put us in that situation. So we would finally ask for some help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I asked to exit many times.
Me too. Yeah, me too. And even in the last, and I've been living a fantasy life with an incredible divine partner, and there's still been a couple times in the last 2-3 years. I'm like, get me the hell out. I'm done.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And do
Yeah.
not put me back here again.
Yeah. 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 I have a feeling though. I have a feeling that as soon as this is over, I'll be the first one down the chute again.
It's
I like
possible.
I like the thrill seeking aspect of it.
Uh-huh.
But I do think we're in for a little bit of a reprieve or respite.
Do you?
Some people talk about 1,000 years of this or 2,000. Who knows about all that stuff? But to me, it does feel like. I mean, it would make sense after all these incarnations and all this stuff that we've done, and it would seem like we would have, a period of time where we'd kick back and let it ride for a little bit.
Maybe.
So, right, exactly, right. Nothing's certain. There is
No.
nothing. You wake up the next day and it's like everything that you
Yep.
learned through yesterday is gone.
Yep.
So what's your passion? I know you're all about service. You had a TED talk too.
I did.
How did you get in there? Who did you have to pay?
Oh, TEDx talk. It's a different thing. So TED
TEDx.
Talks, people, people who aren't with huge audiences that haven't been, on the speaking circuit for years do TED. But TEDx, I did it on a stage of 2,500 people in the theater.
Wow.
So it was a fairly substantial one. Yeah. And my thing, my kind of vehicle for accessing pretty much everything is all about truth telling. So
Yeah.
that's a big piece for me. And I base all of my work around the impact of telling the truth and the impact of not telling the truth. So that TEDx Talks was really about telling the truth and the impact of not telling the truth through some traumas in my childhood and the cost of that for me. And the cost for me, for one of them, was that I was never able to have children. So there's, really, there's some big prices to pay. And so I really get the importance of it and the value of it. And I've seen it over and over again with my clients in multiple layers in many, many ways. So
we got a lot of people on this show, about 1,900 shows. We that are energy practitioners, different names, healers, but I just say energy practitioner. Do you consider yourself an energy practitioner? It sounds like you might do something with a little bit of different, kind of a different spin on it.
Yeah, certainly that's a part of my repertoire. And there's another piece that I think it's important to drop in here of the commitment that I have. I believe that as much of the work as we do in the realms of spirituality, in the realms of magic and energy healing and all of that stuff, if it's not making an impact on the planet in the human experience right now, then it's a waste of time. And so all of the work that I do is deeply grounded. And if I feel like I am somehow detaching from the human experience to live out here, then I will pull it back in real fast. So
I knew I liked you for a reason. Well, you know, we have two hashtags here. One, when we started like 9 years ago, is I am soul, period. That's it. Which is, and by the way, another way to say I am soul is I'm not afraid to show my ass, which I think is the same kind of
Yep.
language that you're talking. But the
Uh-huh.
other one is the human is the hero.
That's
And
right.
so I met Morgan 2015, and I was up there, and I was making videos and doing all kinds of stuff. And she used to tell me, until you embody it, it doesn't mean anything. And I spent
Nothing.
2 years, not every day, but I would say like every couple of months, like, now, what does that mean again? What does that mean to embody? Because I don't think it just means the way it sounds. It's actually got so much more to it than the way it sounds. Like, oh, I'm just going to pull this in, and now I've got this coding from Yeshua, and now I'm going to apply it. I think there's a certain application, actualization that you have to take, and I don't think there's like a owner's manual on it either.
There isn't. There is, though, I feel that we take information in on many levels. And the more that we connect to the idea that we actually can alter things on a internal cellular DNA level, the faster we begin to integrate the information that we're collecting. So I think that there's first of all, when you hear something, immediately the mind, when it doesn't match up, goes into a state of rejecting it. It looks for ways for it not to be true in order to survive, because of course, if anything's out of alignment, the body thinks, or the primal brain thinks it's going to kill you. So I think when we do that and we start, the antidote to that is to be curious about it. And in the curiosity, really feel into your body where the truth of it lands, can talk about it, discuss it, read about it. And eventually you will begin to have a visceral experience of it. And then it shows up as an actual event in your reality.
Right on. Right on. The human is the hero. Y'all hear that?
Absolutely.
But the other thing you're saying too is there's an aspect of programming or reprogramming.
Oh, 100%.
What do you want to, how do
I language it with clients. I language it that at some point we have to re-raise ourselves.
Re-raise. Yeah. Grow up.
Right? Grow yourself up.
Morgan says grow up. She said, I never heard ascension from higher self there. I'd always hear grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is.
But you got to grow yourself up. We've got to take responsibility for that.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's like there's all these cliches with the old Far Eastern philosophies and, secret fraternities and all that stuff. And then there's the new age and then da 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 da. But it really is about taking responsibility, like the self-reliance of the soul. Like nobody's going to do this. People talk about universal laws, law of one, and there's 7 of these. 15, and to me there's just one thing. The universal law is nothing and no one is going to do it for you, period, end of story, go home.
Yeah, so, I agree.
Because you have to do it, because that's the only way to grow. Everything else comes with it, like the expansion of wisdom and power and all the other stuff, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't preclude or it doesn't take away from the fact that there are universal laws we're working within. The difference is, though, we can, it's such a fine balance here, Chad, what we're getting into, because I totally believe in trust and surrender, and at the same time, taking actions in alignment with that which comes through the trust and surrender, guided by universal laws. So there's, it can be so complex, but to simplify how you said it, simplified in that way is exactly it. We have to take responsibility for all of it.
Well, and I think, this is good. I keep getting chills. Like we
how's your neck doing?
My neck? It's because I did something to it. I was laying down and my
ponytail. Yeah,
it was, but anyway, so this is cool. I love this stuff because I do have a very curious mind. And I find it's really cool to be discussing this because of whatever you're doing, because whatever you do seems to be a mix. I'm talking about your practitionership. So you said earlier, like when something comes into the body, it kind of rejects it. Well, into the mind, which is a copy of the body, right? And so it's interesting because you're saying, okay, so you've got to take responsibility and you've got to take some action, but at the same time, you're surrendering, you know? And I think where I see things that are happening now, it's like all this stuff that we pull in, you know, if, or whatever code that we open up in ourselves, that's been like everything's tried to block that out. And so
Yes.
now we're actually being put to the test. It's almost like walking a plank, right? Like in the old days on the ships. Like if you really have the etheric balls and you really believe and have faith in what you and the universe, it's a one and the same, then you're going to walk. And for all this time, we've been talking about it in these light worker circles. And now the pressure's on, you know, they've turned up the flame. The polarities are becoming more extreme contrast. The great divide is bigger, and it's time to shift or get off the pot, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think there's many of us for a long time, we've been asked to keep stepping off the cliff and trusting that new ground's being built. And it is.
Yeah.
And it's only being built because we're stepping off. So there's this yin and yang part of it, this pull, and there's the fear that comes up, but we have to. And then there's this other component in which fear has been used so well to keep us under control, to create this place in which we don't step out. So when we come back to that truth of our internal belonging, like our internal truth, what we're really being asked to develop right now, I think a piece of this that is so important for every human on the planet is to remember that you can trust yourself and learn how to come to a place in which you can recognize when that fear rising in you is valid and when it's not. But there's a disconnect that happens the moment that we're put in a place of fear because we're so programmed for it, we shut down in one way or another.
Yeah.
So there's this place in which we can come into curiosity.
Yeah.
So when we feel it coming, getting curious, oh, there it is. Like, let me just check. Am I dying? No. Okay. Am I being threatened? No. All right. Let me just see what this is really about. And there's some beautiful access there right now because the veils are so thin.
And I love what you said too about the simplicity. I used to write when I first woke up, I'd get these, you know, these poetic prose kind of things in, and it would be like, there's a finite complexity to the you know, to the finite mind, and there's a beautiful simplicity to the infinite mind. And yeah, like last night we were talking and we were just having this conversation. I'm not going to go into the context of it, but Morgan said to me, so why did you start making videos? Like, this is going back to like 2014, 2015. And I said, I don't know. I was just, you know, I knew I had to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we've all done. We've all followed that guidance, and we were all deemed crazy and sent them to the psych ward, and, you know, and the family, you know, you're estranged from the family. And then she said, so, and then what happened after the first one? I said, well, I just, you know, a couple of days went by and I did it again. And she said, well, what was the human feeling? And I said, I was in fear, you know. I was like, you know, I mean, people were telling me I lost my mind already. And now I'm like looking at, and you don't have time. This is what I'm getting at, is you don't have time to look back.
No.
You put it out and you move on. And I see that there's something about that. And I'm not saying because I did it, but I'm just saying I'm seeing it in people. It's that whole, I don't care what people think now. I'm going to do this. And so I'm actually going to pull this stuff in and apply it and not just talk about it. I think the time of talking about it is gone. And if you look at like the end of last year and some of this year, there's been a whole paradigm shift in this community with the old yogi guru thing.
Yep.
Have you noticed that?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And, you know, yeah, I believe in teachers for sure. Yeah. I believe that, however, if your teacher isn't actually teaching you to discover your own internal wisdom and your own internal guidance and to trust it, then you probably need a new teacher.
Man, anyone ever tell you you're a spiritual badass?
Yes.
So, wow.
Question everything.
Right? How do we
Yeah.
connect? I just remember seeing you like come into the field and I was like, oh, there she is.
Well, I
Like,
posted that I wanted to be starting to having more
yes, that was it.
conversations, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that was it.
somebody
Yeah.
tagged you on my post. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so cool. Thank you, somebody, whoever that
Mhm.
was. Yeah, you were like a breath of fresh air. So do you spend, I mean, are you like full-time practitioner?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did you have a
So
tough time? And I ask these questions because, there's a lot of people waking up now. And there's also a lot of people trying to make that transition, from, you know what I mean? Did you
yeah.
have a difficult time making that? Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit dopey from last night.
That's all right.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was 20 years in the
Yeah.
automotive industry and
Uh,
running their finance office,
mm,
I tried to leave a couple different times,
mhm.
and when I finally did, I literally it was brutal. It was like, and I do not recommend people do this. I coach people a lot in transitioning in their lives in different ways, and I do not recommend they do it the way I did it
Yeah.
because it was like throwing myself off a cliff. However,
Yeah.
I was in a position. I was single. I don't have children. There was things about it that no one was relying on me except for me. And so when I did that, when everything got stripped away from me, and like so much finances,
Mm,
friendships, the thing that I had done for 20 years, my identity, what I believed in myself to be true, my faith, everything, I lost everything. So for me, yes, it was a very long time. I said this to somebody the other day. Like, I can still clearly remember that almost daily I would spend hours on the floor with my forehead pressed to the ground, repeating the mantra, I trust, I surrender, and having no idea where that came from
mhm,
or even what it meant. But I
mm,
was heaving, crying.
mhm.
So yeah, it was a
No, I can
challenging
relate to that.
transition.
And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's weird too, because I remember when all that was going on, and I say this too, reflecting off people I've talked to, because I can
Hmm.
pick up and you're in this phase of like, okay, it's normal, right? So you got friends and you got family and you got coworkers, and all of a sudden these doors start shutting. It's like boom, 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 boom. And
Yep.
then in those moments like that, there's nobody. Like there's nobody. You might get one call with this person and one call with that, but after about one or two calls, that's it, you know.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there by yourself, you and the universe, tears, fears, and of course this is several years ago. There's more
Yeah.
support now, but it's still got to be tough on people today. I'm sure as a
It totally
practitioner,
is. Yeah.
you running into people that are just waking up. Are you getting people like that?
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah,
My
that's very
partner and
cool.
I have a commitment that at some point we'll have a place for people to come when they're in spiritual trauma
Hmm.
so that they can ride it out without having to deal with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So we both get it deeply.
Wow, that's very cool. Very cool. And
Yeah.
so, like, what do you think after all this time? You know, you've been doing this and you went through your own thing, and then here we are. I don't think anybody could have written this script, you know?
No, not
I
the way
actually,
not the way
no.
it is.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I was reading some of whatever last night, and the universe just takes you to what you need to see. And I saw this quatrain that who is it? Is it Da Vinci, Galileo, or Da Vinci? Is it Da Vinci? I
I,
don't know whoever did the yeah, Notre Dame. I'm sorry, Notre Dame. And it talked about 2020, and it talked about this crown virus thing. And oh my God, it was so legit. But I guess what
yep.
I'm saying is nobody could have like written a better script, and people were like freaking out. And I'm going, wait a minute, this is the best thing that could have ever happened energetic. We are in the best possible place we could possibly be. We couldn't ask for anything better, you know?
There's a lot of opportunity right now for many, many, many people to begin to see through the bullshit we've been fed for a
Yeah,
very, very long
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And, I'm not one for conspiracy theories at
I hear you.
all. I don't think the aliens created this.
Yeah.
However, I think that there are some very powerful human beings creating more of the same. So I think what's happened, though, is that what they didn't anticipate is a bunch of us at home getting quiet and hearing the truth. Yeah. And standing up against the bullshit and coming out and saying like, no, this isn't, something's wrong here. You are making a lot of money telling me a lot of bullshit. Like, so I think they didn't, and they also, I don't think, anticipated the level of connection that would come out of this. I mean, I think that because of course, if we're separated and we're on our own and we're not being supported in what we believe, then we start to think we're a little crazy. Yeah. So, but there's everybody coming together now in so many different ways that it's the intention of this being created in the first place is it's not living up to what a lot of people expected to happen, and instead we're actually coming into alignment with the vibrational existence of the planet that's been here for a long time. We're actually rising up to meet it now in this space, and that is not what was expected to have happen. Yeah,
you can't, like Dick Gregory. I used to listen to a lot of Dick Gregory. He'd say you cannot mess with the universal God, and he would talk about how somebody would send out a certain intention. I can't remember some of the examples he gave historically, but that the consequence of that ill-intended, whatever it is.
Yep.
Would be this dramatic enhancement of the human spirit in some form or fashion. So it would be like a backfire, but this is like the backfire of all backfires, because it's like, not only did, and maybe it was already being created, and maybe if you look at some narratives, they said they knew this was coming, and whatever reason, but this is a tsunami. I mean, this is
so interesting you just used that word, Todd, because I have been saying that this is the wave breaking shore from a tsunami that began at Atlantis. Like this has been coming for a really, really, really long time. And the wave is breaking the shore right now. And it started that long ago.
You got to stop talking for a minute. I can't stop tingling, man. What's going on?
I'm working on your neck in the background.
Right. And that's another thing, because that's really taken root, and I think is also a great indicator. So I'm just sitting here after the first show talking to Morgan. She was talking to a friend, and this goes back even 2 or 3 days with some other conversations I had about Atlantis and some things that had come into me a few years ago. But what I'm getting at is the sequential, aspect of communication, synchronicities, that's taking on like this beehive mentality now.
Yep.
It's like you call someone and they're like A, and then you call someone a B, and then there's C, D, and E, and you see a bird drop in front of you, and that's the next letter. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's just like, whoa, it's not going away.
Well, what it's getting to the point of is that it can no longer be denied.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. There, you can't. It's almost, you actually have to make a concerted effort to not see the evidence, where before it was the opposite. You actually had to look for it.
Yeah.
Now people are having to like literally go like this in order not to see what's actually happening.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the fact that it's like that is because, one of the things I've been looking at lately, I'm like going, now, come on now, I mean, we believe this is real, whatever we believe, it's going to be there. You know what I mean? And like what you're talking about is that whole different thing that comes in that isn't going to save you unless you embody it and put it into motion. And I think enough people have done enough work, say a strong minority, or maybe everybody, who knows? But the bottom line is it's done, because what we're seeing out there is a result of what we're doing in here and all the stuff that's coming up.
Yeah, there's no going back. I've said this for anybody who thinks that we're going to go back to what we thought was normal before. It's over. It's literally, there's no possibility of us going back. That's done. So there's no point in looking back there for some sort of an answer or solution or some sort of a comfort, because it's like the building just of our past just fell into the ocean and sunk under the sand. Like it's gone.
Right.
So, if you're the practice at this point really, I think, is so important, is the whole, and what we've been preparing for forever, what has been taught to us over and over again, is being present. I think that's what's going to be what carries us into what's coming.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because of when we're present, we're a better conduit. Like we're a better
100%.
Yeah. So and I think what's happening now, though, see, it's like, it used to be meditation and you do this and you do that, but it's almost like it's just in the air now.
Yeah.
Like, like it's like a contagion.
Yeah,
it's a contagion. This is the real world pandemic, by the way.
That's
folks.
Right.
But but no, really, I mean, and the fact that it's continuing to expand, no one can stop it. I mean,
That's right.
really, it's really at the point now where, and I think the other thing you brought up too at the top of the show about, they had this plan, the you, me, we, and it, we all designed this thing. We had this plan and it didn't work. And because it didn't work, and because of the unexpected consequence or reaction or response of the collective, there is no plan B. So they're like scrambling, trying to figure out, okay, what kind of false flag frequency can we throw at them, or whatever the case is. And it's getting to be a little bit laughable. And I think the other thing that you said that's so important is that people are starting to take that responsibility, in how do you eat the elephant one bite at a time? I mean, it's happening one step at a time.
That's right.
But there's where two or more gather, there's bunches of people doing this.
That's right. And I love what you said about how, about meditation and all of those things. And I still feel pretty strongly that that's access for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And for those that have been in the practice of that, it is literally, you're walking in that state pretty much all the time. So there's something about, so I lead group meditation visualizations a fair amount. And what I'm seeing is happening with them is that it's cracking something open in the people in which they begin to live in that state. Yeah. And it's interesting because it used to be that if you lived in that state, you were like off in the ethers most of the time. But what I'm finding is there's a nuance to it now, this energy that's here with it, in that it really truly is that you are deeply connected and deeply rooted at the same time. Yeah. So we're bringing this energy, this state, this meditative state into our moment-to-moment experience, which is allowing us to ground into the planet even deeper and be deeply present for the truth as it rolls through us. It's cleaning us. It's like cleaning the pipes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like the Kali goddess coming in, or the dragons, I love you, but you know what?
Enough of this shit.
Yeah, enough of this shit. And then you mentioned Atlantis. I'm over in St. Pete Beach, Florida, the last few weeks, and for a couple more weeks. And so when I got over here, I started getting it. And Morgan left for 9 days. She went to go see a friend. It's the first 9 days I was here, and I started getting all this Atlantis stuff come in, specific to technology. And I had Atlantis memories like 8-9 years ago when I woke up. And whatever, you get it and you take it and then you move on. And but what I'm getting at is that you brought it up, and I started thinking about something the other day. I thought, they're always talking about this technology thing, and like, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but we're going to reveal secret space, and we're going to reveal this technology has been hidden. And I keep thinking, because of some of the transmissions Morgan and I have experienced together in regard to, like, from the Egyptians or Lemurian or whatever, it's like, we took it this far before, which we were all, I'm sure, part of that. Now you're taking it. Now you've reached that point, and now you're taking it to the next. Taking the templates that were pre-existing, and now you're expanding them. But I guess what I'm getting at is, to me, the technology is us. It wasn't the crystal technology or this technology, it's us. Our technology. We are the free energy of the universe. And this is where I get really intrigued and curious, is like, how fast can we go? How far can we go Like,
Well, if you consider that we actually, all of those technologies exist within us. So we have crystals, we have crystal
yes,
technology within us, we have electromagnetic technology within us. We have, like, nothing exists externally that we don't actually own within the physical body.
right on.
You know, we're at the light energy, that is the most powerful energy ever, is actually at the center of the cell, at the DNA. Like, I mean, that's all there is, really.
Right.
So, of course, we're it, because it cannot possibly be anything external to us.
Yeah,
And I think that if you think about this, everything that's been discovered eventually shows up as already existing within
true.
us, no matter
Yes,
what it is. So I
yes,
think that all we're doing really is as we discover more and more of our own internal power, our own internal possibility, then more of it will show up externally. It doesn't the other way around.
right.
It's not that externally we were shown this and then we had it here. It's always here first and then external.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a freaky picture behind you. That's the painting.
Yeah, this was
Did somebody?
my partner's from Zimbabwe, and we went in 2017 to Africa for a month, and this was an incredible young street artist.
That's amazing.
And beautiful,
I didn't
right?
mean to like break stride there, but I'm
No,
looking
no,
at
it's all
going,
good. It's a
holy
part of
crap.
it, right?
First I'm looking at it going, what the hell is that? And what is it saying to me? Like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
So
yeah. She's really powerful.
yeah. So like everybody's different, like everybody goes through the experience in their own unique way. The universe communicates to each one of us in its own unique way, our unique way, I guess, in a way that we can understand metaphorically, la la la. Do you have like certain connections to different phases of the universe, say, divine essences, angelics, galactics, that type of thing? Is there some part of the universe that brought you to the party
Mm,
on this go round?
yeah, I'm not sure particularly, to be honest. It's not ever been all that interesting to me
So you just
about
kind
where
of
it
deal
comes
with
from.
the singular universal voice. Like it's just
Yeah. I think
very
that
organic.
for me,
Yeah.
it's all about creator. I think that
Yeah.
I think the source of love is where I tap into most.
Mm.
I do believe that I have a council that works with me. However, to name them or say where they're from,
Yeah, it doesn't.
it's just not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think to me, it's a little bit of it becomes a little bit of a mind. Can I
It's a
swear?
distraction. It's a distraction, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
distraction. Yeah.
It's a total distraction.
Yeah.
And so, in the beginning, I was fascinated by it,
Mhm.
like I wanted to know who my angels were and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. And great, fun, all of those things. And then I realized it wasn't making one damn bit of difference.
No.
And that, as a matter of fact, it was blocking the possibility of more
Yeah.
information coming through. So I just dropped it.
Yeah, it's like, how far is that going to get you?
It
You know
doesn't
what I
get you
mean?
anywhere.
Like, hey, guess you know what? I was the offspring of this divine essence,
Yeah.
ascended masters, and like, well,
Yeah.
how far is that going to get you?
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the old corporate world. You were in the corporate world.
Yeah.
What's that old saying? Like, what have you done for me lately?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the universe doesn't play.
No.
It doesn't play.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for, and of course, because my humanity also needs something to connect to. My choice, what I choose to oftentimes is to speak to the energy of Sophia, which I think and Mary Magdalene is a big one for me, and the same with Jesus. And so those are the three kind of.
Yeah.
And then when I do work, when I do open channeled work or energy healing work or any of that kind of stuff, I basically just ask for divine guidance and that I be as clean and clear as possible for the energy, for the source of love to come through. And that's really my place with it all.
Right on. Yeah. And it's interesting too. Here we go with the curiosity again, because like when I first woke up 9 years ago, it was Jesus and Magdalene.
Yeah.
And I'd heard of Magdalene. Of course, I'd heard of Jesus. And so as time went on, and then there was others. There was other ones that came in, and I was like, oh, how does that work? Is that me? and like you're there and I'm here, and is it just consciousness? Is it like, how does all that work? And then again, you get back to the same thing. It's like the chicken and the egg. Like, okay, well, that's a distraction.
It
At
is a
some,
distraction. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I actually believe that all of it is a part of us. I don't
I
think there's
do, I
actually
do too.
any, it's just an aspect of our
Absolutely,
soul's
yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah. We get connections most every night, visitations, apparitions, and that's pretty, monads, standing in with the monad group, and you know it's it's pretty, become pretty commonplace, but I think it has for more and more people. But that's the way we look at it. These are
Hmm.
aspects of ourselves, which was a big help for me and Morgan, I think, as we started to, at a certain point about a year ago, started to get these really off planet, not attractive, kind of scary looking things, coming in,
Hmm.
and it's all the same thing, merging every aspect into your heart, and that made it a little bit easier, when you start to do that. It seemed like for me it did, like
Hmm.
if things started to flow a little bit better, and
Yeah.
things were more understandable after that than they
Hmm.
had been.
Hmm.
So you do some channeling, you work with clients one-on-one, you do group stuff. um, Very cool. And you're in a partnership during
Yeah.
this transition. How long you been in a partnership?
It was 5 years this year.
Yeah. What's it been like navigating this transition in a relationship? That's not
Easy. We're
that
both very,
you
Chris has been
cool.
doing work around his spirituality longer than I have, far longer. It's interesting because what works so beautifully in our relationship is Chris studied through, like, scholastically,
Wow.
spirituality, religion, writing through the process of religion, all of that stuff. He's a doctorate in, I don't know. He's just, he's
Wow.
that guy, right? And so he can't comes at it from the with this vast amount of knowledge. I mean, we have books and books and bookshelves stuffed full of everything you could possibly think of, not only from that perspective, but also a lot of the channeled works. The Law of
Wow.
One books, are both of us read those, devoured them. There's a few different pieces around that. And for me, I came from it completely differently. Mine was never an intellectual thing, mine was a feeling thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the information that would come through for me was definitely a felt or a psychic stuff. And because of the type of human being that my partner happens to be, there was a deep amount of respect for that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it works so beautifully for us. We just have a
Yeah.
lot of love and respect for each other.
Right on. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
relate to that. Yeah,
Hmm.
we'd love to get y'all on together. That
Yeah, he's a pretty astonishing
that would be
human.
cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said. We've probably had like 35, 40 couples on, and there's just a lot to be said for the experience being shared, because this is what's not talked about. Everything's
That's
about,
right.
oh, you need to do this process and this modality, and and all the different traditional typical things. But I really believe it's the conversations that we have.
100%.
That's
Yeah,
that's our highest. I mean, we are in the flesh, we are the archangels.
that's right.
And as I like to say, especially when I get pissed off, I'm the one down here doing the work. I'm going to have a say in this thing, right? But
Yeah.
we do have within us, and there's something about sharing, and it doesn't even matter what we're talking about, because one thing everybody knows, people talk about I'm more awakened, my bullshit detector's getting better, but it's not that. It's like the truth frequency, you can't deny it.
Hmm.
There's something about speaking the truth, and you could be talking about fishing, you could be talking about metaphysics, but people know when you're telling the truth, and there's something about sharing an experience that provides the biggest opportunities of elevation that we can have.
Yeah.
Code exchange. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and we have those conversations regularly.
But at the house, you mean?
Yeah, and
Oh yeah.
it's been a while now, for quite a while. Poor Chris, he's much more reserved than I am. We'd start having a little conversation. I go, just hold on a sec, and I would go get my phone and the stand, and I would bring us live on social media and go, okay,
Oh
now we can
my
talk about it.
God. Morgan would have me tarred and feathered if I did that. Oh my God. I've
Yeah,
done
he's
it.
a good sport.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like y'all are set up like we are, you know, you're me and he's her, you know, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot. In fact, that's how this all started, you know, was I was doing videos and then she was like, you know, she actually had kind of like downloaded or thought up the idea like 10 years before, like in 2008. And she was like, wouldn't it be cool to have a place where everybody comes and can share their experiences, their skills, their abilities? And yeah, she mentioned it to me like a couple months after I met her. She's like, why don't you do that instead of just making it about yourself?
Yeah.
One of those daggers, you know, one of those unconditional love daggers, and you're like going, oh, that hurt. You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
exactly
But
it.
that's what we do for each other, all of us. And
That's
that's another
exactly right.
interesting spin uh, on this, or an interesting occurrence, I think, that's occurring is that so the telepathy is getting bigger.
Yep.
We're learning how to figure out what's mine, what's yours, you know, the life of an empath. And then there's the, do I say something? You know, like, you know, you're saying one thing, but I'm hearing another thing. Like, do you say something or you do zip it? You know, this is an interesting proposition too, right?
Well, I think that that's where discernment comes from.
Yeah.
You know, that it's really dependent on the relationship. I also do not want to put myself in as a barrier to the path that they happen to be on.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really, it really is a matter of, if the relationship is not close enough, then there needs to be permission asked.
Yeah.
And even for me, even with some of the people who I'm closest to, I'll ask permission.
Yeah.
Before I go there.
Now, I tend to keep my mouth shut. I really do, which is not the way I used to be. But I've just tend to, like, if I don't know what to do, because most of the time I don't know. I'm not like clear. What do I do? But the ones that are challenging are when they'll say, "Can you tell me what you think?" And you're like,
yeah,
"You really want to know?"
Yeah, totally. And then, hey, that they just opened the door, the barn. Excuse me. They just opened the barn door for you. Just like, go right through it.
Right. Well, and you know, the whole thing is, and this is nothing we were talking about last night, was like that, you know, here's where things are, because then you know how it is. I mean, you wake up tomorrow and everything's changed. You know, everything is like you're in a new world. And so it's like, but if you feel a certain something, say something, you know, explicitly, you know. And the way I figure it is either one or the other or both will be triggered somehow. And that's a good thing. We're learning triggers are not, you know, triggers are not what we, you know, what we thought they were, how we reacted to them before. They were actually great gifts for us now.
Yeah. And I think that there's definitely something to be said for checking in to see where the desire to say the thing is coming from.
Yeah.
You know, I think that I had a great conversation with a friend of mine this morning, got some beautiful guidance from her around something that I discovered. And if I'd have just blurted out what I saw, what I know, it would have caused a tremendous amount of upheaval in which no one can hear you.
Yes. Right.
So she said, you know, look, go back to the truth of who you are. Like, what are you really doing here? And what are you about? And speak from that place. And it was so helpful. And I'm writing a whole piece on it right now. I was doing that before we came on live. And I can see that that's actually going to be of greater service than me saying, wake up, people. Why can't you see this shit? Because, you know, that used to be me.
That doesn't work anymore. No.
It doesn't
Isn't
work
that funny
anymore.
too?
I can't bully my way through anymore.
Right. Isn't that funny too, that, like, you know, going back a few years, or you even see it still now, but, you know, people are like, I woke up, you know, and then the next phase, like, nobody's listening to me. Why don't people listen to me? And you're like, you know, shut the F up and, you know, just mind you. But you're right. It's like, it's almost like a subtle guerrilla warfare. You just put it out there. Because I think the other thing too is we have been, well, because of our conditioning, we don't realize the impact. Like, even if it's me and you with 100 people on, okay, today, or it's you or me by ourselves in our room with the door closed, connecting with the universe, pulling stuff in, we're affecting the entire grid. We're affecting everything, you know, even beyond,
100%.
even beyond the
Yeah.
realm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 100%.
yeah. So, you know,
Yeah.
integrity is the order of the day. You know, what it's not what you do when people are looking, it's what you do when they're not.
It's so true.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We are in uncharted territory. There's no doubt about that. However, we've been preparing for this. And so, you know, we don't, just because it's the way it is, doesn't mean that we remember everything that we've been learning this whole time. We've been being prepared, you know, and I think that's something to hang on to, is that we have been being prepared. And so, and you know, this whole awakening piece, you don't suddenly awaken. I'm sorry, but you don't. It happens. Right. You'll be awakening until the day that you leave this body. And even then,
everything has an ing on it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
Everything
exactly.
has an ing. There's, you know, I love the when I woke up and I kept getting faith. I remember one time, Abraham, you know, came. Abraham from the Bible, and I didn't even know this guy, right? It's this big old dark guy, you know, like black guy, really big guy with this crazy hair. And then this big cloud appeared above his head, and it was like in some like Aramaic or something. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, faith. I'm like, faith. But I looked up the meaning of it, and of course, you know, it has the traditional meanings. And then it had this one transitive verb, to trust and believe, and all I could see was motion, like it was moving. Right. And I thought, oh, that's it right there. Like it's got to be moving. And
question everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Question. And that's where faith comes from.
Yeah, exactly. When we stop asking questions, like we met this kid yesterday, 29, kid, because I'm twice as old as he is, but one beautiful kid, man. This guy, what the hell was his name? I can't remember. Barrett Lee out of Hawaii. So he's 29 years old. He grew up in Oregon, then went to Washington, then went to San Francisco, and now he's in Hawaii. And his answers, I mean, his conversation was so spot on. And I said, hey, did you go through the traditional stuff that, you know, getting estranged from your family? He's like, no, actually, my parents are a blessing. They told me when I was, you know, like, you know, knee high to a tall Indian, question everything. Don't trust authority, not even ours. I thought, oh my God.
Yeah. There's your access right there.
Right. Exactly. You know, exactly.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So what do you think? How do you feel about I mean, a lot of people have talked about 2020. And obviously, you know, you've been in this a long time, so you've seen what's happened this year and even this past month and even the first 6 days of this month. But what do you, I don't think anybody knows, but I'm just saying, how do you feel? What would you like to see happen even, you know, from here, like say just in the next few months?
This may not be popular, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Good. I like that.
I think it would serve us all very, very highly if chaos reigned for a while longer. If this didn't just get cleaned up. I think that we need to stay in the state of chaos and get really, really comfortable with it. And more people understand that this is not the end for us if we can hang in with the chaos, that we're being rebuilt from the inside out, that there's things going on that we don't understand. But if we can just be okay with it not being okay, then we're going to get the very most out of this as possible. And so I really would like to see people not try to shortcut the process that we're in currently. So yeah, Great
answer. It's a great answer, you know, and you know, I would only get like these short little profound little snippets they'd send me. Like when I first woke up, I was walking the streets and they were like, you know, keep it simple, and no one misses a step on the soul highway. That's what they tell me. No one misses a step, you know, and I'm like, okay, so there is no shortcut. And I love what you said too, because I remember when I broke out years ago and I didn't even know what I was saying half the time. You know how it is when you're getting stuff when you don't even know what you're saying or why you're saying it. And I'd say, bring it on, bring it all on. Let's see what we're made of. But that's what it is. So it's like the more chaos we're in, the less attachment and dependence, that's not even a good word for it, on the human aspect, and giving credence and allowance to that part of us that's been shut down, which at this point, it seems to me that the only thing standing in our way now is us,
Yeah.
It's like, get out of the way.
Yeah. It's stuff's being shaken loose. That's been tied down as true. That's not true for way too long. And this is an opportunity to shake that loose. So I think that, I mean, as uncomfortable as it is, and the human part of me wishes this was over.
Yeah. Oh, as soon as it's over, we're all going to be going, man, why didn't we stay longer?
Right. I think that there's some pretty massive opportunities, and we're finding our way, and it's speaking to human resilience. It's speaking to the possibility of this evolution being unreversible.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot here for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about it, just long enough to entertain myself, but it's like, I think, we're actually like, we're doing some major work as a group. We're doing and the human species is our vehicle, which is a universal species. It's got universal seeds, and I think it's almost like we're taking this whole realm literally into a higher dimension. It's almost like a coronation, a graduation, celebration.
Yep.
And it's powerful.
I mean, I think I just touched on this earlier a little bit, that we are being asked to catch up to a vibrational existence that the planet's been in for quite some time. And I think similar to what I went through when this whole thing started, there's the patience is wearing thin. And so there's this calling right now with everything that's been going on and is going on, to say, like, get on board, like, come on, the earth needs help. This vibrational existence that we're in, that we've been in for so long, is old and dead and gone. So stop looking back. There's nothing back there for us.
And that's the truth. And it's no different than what you were talking about in your own personal story, or mine, or many other people's.
Exactly.
It's actually a collective copy of what everyone's done individually. That's, and I hate to say leading the way, or that's been in it longer, or whatever, however you want to put it, but it's facts are facts.
Yep.
But these people, they were, by force or flow, mostly force, they were put into this place, and there was no going back. There was no going back. They're just like the minute you left your job. When you left your job, yes, I did too.
Many times.
Yeah,
Let me just go get a job.
I lasted like 4 months. Like 4 months in commercial construction. I had been in construction my whole life, and I was working out of my house, and I just got spit out.
Yeah.
I'd love to collaborate with you again if you're open to it. You are a breath of fresh air, and blunt and straight up, and that's what we need. And we'd love to. I'm sure Morgan's already on it. We would love to have you and Chris on too as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming in and honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us. I love you. I think it's
been a pleasure.
You're amazing.
Pleasure. It's been amazing. Thank you, Todd. What a beautiful space you're creating.
You're very welcome. See you later. Peace out. Best to you and Chris. Bye-bye.